Hello and welcome. In this video, we're looking at the multi-mode on the Kurzweil K27 keyboard. Multi-mode is probably the one place where we can fully expand the power of the instrument. You can have up to 16 independent programs at once, and you can also customize a large number of controllers that we have. I'm going to show you how you can play back loops, use key triggers, and still have a fully playable keyboard all at once. For this example, I'm going to use a drum loop with a clavinet layer that I made earlier using the onboard song sequencer. Again, you can use any of the factory songs on the keyboard. We have a lot of them, and it's still going to be the exact same steps. For the loop that I'm using, I've got drums on track number 1 and clav on the second one. This is what it sounds like. Well, let's go to multi-mode. Select a clear multi by tapping in 2047. Press edit once and you'll be on the main overview page. Now, for zone 1, enter 908 in the zone name box. This is the drum sound that we want to use. And just next to it, I want to set the range for this zone. This is going to be from the lowest A note on the keyboard to the B note right above that. So to set the range, move to the low point box here, hold enter and strike the A key. In the box with high point right next to it, hold enter and strike B. The reason for doing this is I want the drum loop to be toggled on and off only within this range. For the panning value, enter 64. For volume, enter 127. Also, I'm using a fully clear multi and not one of the templates. This means it doesn't have any default controller assignments on it. It's probably a little more effort than using one of the templates or even the split and layer options, but I think it gives you a little more control over the multi workflow. So let's set up a volume fader for this zone. This is going to be slider 1. In the controls page, in the box labeled controller, press and hold the enter button and move slider 1. The mode is going to be MIDI CC. In the destination box, select MIDI 7 by typing in 7 on the number pad. Message 7 controls volume, by the way. It's just a useful thing to have in mind. Let's have the entry position at 127, which means the fader is going to be at its max value the moment this multi is selected. So this method is basically how you set up a volume fader for any zone, where you want to hold the enter button and move the slider you want to assign. This way, you can almost use the slider section like a mixing board. Let's go to the riff page now. Let's turn it on. We're going to find the song that we want to use and assign a trigger for that. In the song box, you can either enter the song number or simply scroll. In the tempo box, you want to enter multi. This means you can adjust the speed of the loop using the master tempo knob over here. In source track, select 1. We're doing this since we have the drum loop on track number 1. Make sure loop mode is switched on. In trigger range, hold the enter button and press the lowest A note on the keyboard. This goes for both the minimum and max points. Now in the release box, you want to hold enter and strike B. Again, this goes for low and high points. So A is loop on, B is loop off. Let's go back to the overview page. You want to activate the second zone and select a clav sound. For the key range, let's select a low point of C1 and a high point of B1. Again, we're pressing down enter and then simply striking the keys. For the pan value, you want to enter 64 and 127 for volume. Now, let's set up a volume fader for this zone. Just like we did for zone 1, you want to go to the controls tab, hold the enter button and move slider 2. You want to select MIDI CC and then assign MIDI number 7 as the destination. Your entry value is going to be 127. So slider number 2 is now the volume fader for this zone. Going back to riff now, you want to select the same song that we did earlier. Again, the tempo box should say multi. Now I need to make sure this zone only plays back the clav part. For this, I'm going to select source track as track number 2. Next, I'm going to turn the transpose function on so the loop can play back in different keys. Next, I'm going to select C2 as my root key because the loop was made in C and I want it to play in the correct octave as well. Now for the range. In the trigger box, I'm going to hold enter and select C1 as my low point. For the high point, it's going to be A sharp 1. Now for the release box, I'm going to hold enter and select B1 as both my low and high points. So with that, the entire octave now plays back the clav loop in different keys and the B note turns the loop off. Now let's get a main EP sound going and a bass sound for my left hand. So let's activate zone 3 by pressing switch number 3. The EP sound I'm using is sound number 49. I'm going to select C2 as my low point and B6 is going to be my high point. Again, 64 for the pan value and 127 for the volume. Now for the controllers, I want to assign slider number 3 as my volume fader, exactly as I did before. So back on the controls page, hold enter and move slider number 3. Again, MIDI CC over here. The destination is going to be message number 7, which is volume. Again, 127 for entry value. Let's also have a sustain pedal for this zone. You want to go back up to controller, hold enter and press down on your sustain pedal. CC is going to be your mode again. Now in the box labeled type, you want to enter momentary. This means the controller only sends a message when it's being actively engaged and not otherwise. Now for destination, enter 64. That's usually the MIDI message for sustain. Now for the on value, enter 127, and for the off value, enter 0. Now let's also have the mod wheel working only on this zone. Again, go back up to controller, hold enter and move the mod wheel. Again, turn the mode to CC. Now the second you do that, the value gets auto-assigned to vibrato. You can customize it to any value you want, but in this case, I'm going to go with the default. Also by this point, I think you've got a hang of how to assign controllers, so let's keep moving to the bass sound. Again, activate zone 4 and select the sound you want. I'm going to go with sound number 869. So I'm going to set this bass sound only for my left hand. So for my low point, I'm going to hold enter and hit C. Now for my high point, I'm going to hold enter and hit G. Pan value is going to be 64 again, and the volume is going to be 112. Again, we need a volume slider. So go back to the controls page, hold enter and move slider 4. By this point you know it's going to be MIDI CC and message number 7. The entry value is going to be 112 again. So all of your controller assignments are pretty much going to be done the same way on this exact page. You simply hold enter, move the controller you want to assign, and then enter the values. Now for the final zone, I want to have an organ patch at the very end of the keyboard, but I want single keys to play back full chords. For this, I'm going to use the key trigger feature. I'm going to use the highest C and D keys for this. By the way, you can have 12 key triggers at once. I'm only using a couple of them because that's all I need. But it's still going to be the exact same steps if you want to have more. So let's make a new zone for the organ sound. This is going to be on the tools page. From the options here, select new zone. Now back on the overview page, you want to activate the zone. I'm going to select the sound I want and then set the range. The low key is going to be C and the high key is going to be D right above that. Again, I'm holding enter and simply pressing these keys to assign them. The pan value is going to be 64 and the volume is going to be 85. Now for volume control, the exact same steps. You want to go to controls, hold enter and move slider number 5. All the same steps again. By the way, starting with zone 5, we don't have a default on-off switch, so let's assign switch number 5. So go back up to controller, hold enter and press switch 5. CC is going to be your mode again, and in type, you want to select toggled. For destination, you want to enter 149, which is the message for mute zone. For the on value, type in 0. For the off value, enter 127. So now you can mute and unmute the zone using switch number 5. Now we can finally assign the key triggers. Back to the controller box, enter 41 or simply scroll till you see key 1. The mode is going to be notes and chords. Select momentary as the controller type. Again, it's only going to be triggered when you actively engage it. Now in the key box, you want to hold enter and hit C. In the numbered key boxes below that, we can enter the notes for the chord we want to play back. So in each box, you want to hold enter and hit the key you want to play back. So I'm going to set up a C minor 7th chord here. Now back in the controller box, scroll up to key 2. All the same steps again. In the key box this time, you want to hold enter and hit D. That's going to be the second key trigger. In the numbered key boxes below that, I'm going to set the notes for F7. So with that, hitting C is going to play back a C minor 7th chord and pressing D is going to play back F7. So let's put everything together and see what it sounds like. To sum it all up, we have a drum loop at the lowest point of the keyboard, a clavinet riff playing in the octave above that, a bass section for your left hand, an EP for your right hand, and finally organ chords at the very top. You also have the slider section set up like a mix board. You can follow these steps to customize the controllers any way you want and also combine different features like riff playback, the arpeggiator, and so much more. Again, this was merely 5 zones. You can have 16 zones at once, and each of those zones can be 32 layers deep. And with all these controllers, the possibilities are endless. Hopefully you can try these features out for yourself on your own Kurzweil synth. Thank you, and I'll see you next time.